Welcome to Practice Safe. This presentation will cover your general roles and responsibilities as set out in the Health and Safety at Work Act and should be watched by employers, managers and workers to get an understanding of what's required of you under the Act. It also forms part of your induction into the workplace. My name is Karen Turanga and I'm the owner and director of Practice Safe, and I will be taking you through this presentation today. I also want to introduce Cheryl, an important member of our team. She is our go-to consultant and assists us with our health and safety auditing and quality. The Health and Safety at Work Act 2015 requires all PCBUs to have an occupational health and safety management system in place by the 4th of April 2016. So what is it and how does it affect you? Health and safety has shifted its focus from monitoring and recording incidents to proactively identifying and managing its health and safety risks. If you're a manager, leader or business owner, it's your responsibility, so far as is reasonably practicable, to identify and manage the risks associated with your workplace. Have processes in place to eliminate or minimise those risks and make sure your workers know about them. If you're a worker, contractor or visitor, you also have a duty to make sure that your actions or inactions don't put other people at risk. So we have a goal to assist you to achieve a safe and compliant workplace. WorkSafe also has a goal, and it's to get everybody home to their families safely at the end of each day. So what are the different roles within the Act and where do you fit in? We'll have a look at the 4 roles, PCBU, an officer, worker and other, and what those roles and responsibilities entail. The PCBU means a person conducting a business or undertaking. It's a broad concept used to describe all types of modern working arrangements, which we commonly refer to as businesses. And these can include individuals such as sole traders or self-employed people, incorporated companies, a partner in a partnership, whether that's limited or not, organisations such as government departments, universities, schools or local authorities. A PCBU is responsible for the primary duty of care, that workers and other people are not put at risk by its work so far as is reasonably practicable. Like providing and maintaining a safe working environment, that any equipment, buildings, tools or substances are safe and fit for purpose, including their handling and storage. Facilities are adequate, providing any information, training, instruction or supervision that's necessary to protect all people from risks, including monitoring the health of workers and the conditions of the workplace. WorkSafe understands that you can't remove all risk, but you must, as far as is reasonably practicable, eliminate or minimise it. A PCBU, however, isn't a person. Therefore, it can't carry out these responsibilities without someone to administer them. This brings us to the role of the officer. An officer must be someone who has significant influence over the PCBU, including the authority to make operational and financial decisions directly related to the workplace. In most instances, it will be a director or a partner, but could be anyone with significant influence, like a CEO. It is the officer's responsibility to exercise due diligence to make sure the PCBU complies with its duties. So what is due diligence and why does it need to be followed? An officer must take reasonable steps to make sure the PCBU complies with its duties. That means taking reasonable skill to continuously learn about and keep up to date with work health and safety issues. Understand the work being carried out. Know the risks that workers and volunteers may face when working. Check that there are appropriate resources and processes to eliminate or minimise risks and that they're used. That processes are in place to communicate and consider information about health and safety and respond to it. that there are processes in place to comply with any duties and requirements under the Health and Safety at Work Act. Do your due diligence now. So this isn't you later. Workers cover a wide range of individuals, including contractors and subcontractors, outworkers, apprentices, even volunteers. Workers now have responsibilities too. So the old saying, all care, no responsibility, it's a thing of the past. The new Act brings with it consequences. You can now be prosecuted if your conduct could cause harm, injury, or death to another worker. So what are workers required to do? There are two main duties. One, reasonable care to ensure the health and safety of themselves and others, including their actions in the workplace. And two, complying with the business's instructions, procedures, and policies. For some reason, people find this difficult. Health and safety is stupid or a scam. They're not dumb, they don't need all this bullcrap. Things worked just fine before. Well, I'm old school, and I have to take responsibility for thinking like this in the beginning too, until I started looking into New Zealand's poor health and safety record. I don't think you can fix stupid, and there's a small proportion of the population who, no matter what you do, will find trouble. But we can make it harder for them to get injured. Once I got over being pig-headed, I had to admit, I'm not a stupid person, but I have moments of stupid. That split-second decision, that once it's passed, you think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And if we're honest, we all have them. However, if you're going to increase the consequences, you also have to ensure workers have a say. Businesses now need to engage and consult with workers. That's a legal requirement, and workers have the power to act if they believe that there is a risk of severe injury or death due to poor conditions, processes, or equipment. They can shut a workplace down if necessary, and they're protected from the business retaliating. Now that said, you don't do it just because you're having a bad day, and WorkSafe will investigate. On a more serious note though, workers are more vulnerable and in the past have continued to work in unnecessarily dangerous conditions because they felt they had no alternative. Mortgages still need to be paid, kids still need to be fed and clothed, and any job is better than no job. So now businesses must engage with workers so they participate in the decisions that affect workplace health and safety, including assessing and identifying the hazards, decisions about addressing the risks, staff welfare facilities, monitoring worker health and workplace conditions, providing information and training, processes used for resolving work health and safety issues, and determining work groups. We also need to talk to others and ensure that they have been told the risks in a workplace. These include family who might think that they can move around a workplace as they please, because they're family. Customers who want to see how it's going on the work site and just turn up. Or friends who need to kill some time while they wait for you. So why has it all changed? On the 19th of November 2010, 29 people didn't make it home, and the levels of stupidity across the workplace make it even more tragic. The Royal Commission found issues from government level down. The Department of Labour should have stopped the mine from operating until adequate systems were in place. It assumed Pike River was complying with the law, even though there was ample evidence it wasn't. Mining should have stopped until risks could be properly managed. 21 reports of explosive levels of methane and 27 reports of potentially dangerous levels in the last 2 days before the explosion. Excess methane levels up to the morning of the tragedy, and warnings were still not heeded. The mine was operating before its health and safety systems were adequate. The drainage and ventilation systems couldn't cope, and revenue was put before the safety of workers. This is why everything needed to change. But this is mining. What does that mean to me? New Zealand has a poor record of workplace safety. Pike River highlighted the need to improve, and the government set a target to rapidly reduce the number of men and women hurt or killed at work. Their aim? A 25% reduction in serious injuries from the 2012 levels by 2020. And according to the provisional 2016 data from Stats New Zealand, fatalities are on target. We're not killing so many workers, but serious harm injuries are still increasing. You can see in this table what those numbers look like. That's 178 million claims to ACC at a cost of $2.6 billion to the country. Or rather, we pay $2.6 billion a year to be stupid. Imagine what could be done with that money, even if we just halved that amount. Schools, medical care, poverty reduction. So what are we doing that's causing this? Here are the main causes. Is it what you expected it to be? Slips, trips and falls is high across all industries. Reaction injuries, avoiding one creating another. And the curse of the cell phone, not watching where you're going. But there's also a wider focus. And that includes illnesses caused by short and long-term exposure, by physical and psychological. There's been a lot in the news lately with bullying, harassment and sexual harassment. Don't underestimate the effects this can have on people. Most issues in the workplace can be sorted out with early intervention and are often not much more than a personality clash. However, targeted, prolonged or severe bullying or harassment can lead to high staff turnover, depression or even suicide. You need to take it seriously. Physical illnesses or injury can be caused over time and affect things like hearing, breathing, and in the most severe cases, death. Exposure to noise, sun, chemicals or other contaminants like asbestos could be monitored to ensure staff health is maintained. Another major cause of injuries is fatigue. It's a workplace hazard and employers are responsible for managing it. It reduces alertness and may lead to errors and an increase in workplace incidents and injuries. Adults need an average of 7 to 9 hours sleep each night, but 30% report averaging less than 6, according to a National Health Interview survey. Sleep's a vital factor in overall health. Chronic sleep deprivation causes depression, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and other illnesses. Less than 5 hours sleep can affect decision making, similar to being drunk. And injuries happen 3 times more often to workers who sleep less than 5 hours per night. So what can be done to reduce the risks of fatigue? In the workplace, plan work schedules. Make sure employees take regular quality rest breaks. Have extra rest breaks if the work's demanding. Work with the environment. Extreme heat or cold temperatures can cause fatigue. Physical and mental demands can too, so monitor workers. And watch out for emotional distress, particularly if pressured by deadlines or other workplace factors. But what about causes outside of work? Lack of sleep, pressure and stress that affects mental health, medications including recreational drugs and alcohol, lack of physical activity or poor eating habits can all contribute to fatigue. Surely employers can't be responsible for everything. No, but employers must take all practicable steps to manage it. Having a workplace fatigue policy in place lets everybody know what's expected, workers, managers and supervisors. Policy should include maximum shift length and average weekly hours, work-related travel, procedures for reporting fatigue risks or managing fatigued workers. Make sure anyone can report fatigue-related issues, investigate incidents where fatigue is involved, and train your new employees on fatigue management. Once these strategies are implemented, you should monitor and review them to ensure fatigue is managed. But employers don't have the sole responsibility. Employees must take all practicable steps to keep themselves and others safe. So what can employees do? Well, be fit for work, including a good night's sleep, and that includes you gamers out there. Inform your manager if a task is beyond your capabilities. And recognise the signs. They include feeling constantly tired, little energy, feeling sluggish, excessive yawning or falling asleep at work, less vigilant, bad moods, forgetfulness, inability to concentrate, poor communication or poor decision making, reduced hand-eye coordination and slower reaction times. So let your manager know if you start showing these signs or are aware of other workers who may be, and report fatigue-related incidents. Take practical steps to minimise fatigue, including getting 7.5 to 9 hours sleep at night. Eat a balanced diet and drink plenty of water. Coffee and nicotine only provide a short-term relief for the effects of fatigue. So maintain good work-life balance, and if fatigue or sleepiness persist, see a doctor. So, not playing your part in workplace health and safety? Is it worth the risk? And I'm not just talking about the obvious risks. There is now real consequences for everyone, including workers, with prosecution. This table shows the maximum penalties that can be enforced. These penalties are scaled based on a number of factors and legal requirements, but as a broad overview, we're just going to have a look at the maximum penalties and offences. There are 3 duty holders. Column 1 is the workers. Column 2, officers and PCBUs, particularly if they're individuals or sole traders. And column 3, PCBUs and large organisations. The offences, key phrases are highlighted, and the prosecution must prove all of these beyond reasonable doubt. So let's look at the first one, reckless conduct, exposing an individual to risk of serious injury, illness or death. Here, the offender was aware their actions may cause risks, but did it anyway, failing to comply with the duty. This is the most serious offence and carries the highest penalties. Not only fines ranging from $300,000 for workers through to $3 million for large organisations, but imprisonment up to 5 years. Next is a failure to comply, exposing an individual to risk of serious injury, illness or death. They don't need to prove the offender was aware their actions could cause risks, but they still failed to comply with a duty that did cause those risks. And finally, a failure to comply with a duty. Now here, unlike the other two, there's no need to prove anyone was exposed to serious injury or illness. However, the penalties are still quite substantial. For workers, a $50,000 fine. PCBUs or officers, if they're sole traders, $100,000, and large organisations, $500,000. Again, these are all the maximum amounts that can be imposed, but they will be scaled to fit the business sizes and conduct. The point is, we need to change the way we look at workplace health and safety. And this is a way to get everyone to do it because it makes everybody accountable. And if you're thinking, I'm okay, I've got liability insurance, think again. You cannot insure yourself out of a fine. Your insurance can cover your legal fees to fight a claim or compensation for a victim, but you cannot insure yourself out of a fine. Under the Health and Safety at Work Act, your risk management system is an ongoing process. So you can't just buy something, put it on the shelf and think you're covered. It continually needs to be reassessed, monitored and updated. Risk assessment is the overall process where you identify hazards and risks that could cause harm. You then analyse and evaluate the risk, which is part of their ongoing process of risk assessment as shown on the left. Identify your risks, assess their level, plan how to eliminate or minimise it, implement any controls, monitor the effect, adjust the controls if needed, and identify any ongoing risk. The purpose of risk management is to forecast and evaluate risks, together with the identification of procedures to avoid or minimise their impact. Identifying the risks in your workplace is a critical part of your workplace health and safety and dictates the implementation of all processes and procedures to keep everybody safe. That covers the introduction to workplace roles and responsibilities. Compliance and competency follow some basic guidelines, which is shown here. Your occupational health and safety management system sets up your initial compliance needs, and all staff should be inducted into the business. Your occupational safety management system is a live document and needs to be actioned regularly to be compliant. We take our clients through all documentation supplied, offer options for ongoing support and advice to remain compliant. Please speak to one of our advisors if you need any assistance with your health and safety needs. Our contact details will follow.